Hey, I'm Anya. Welcome back to Who's in My House. Speaking of which, let's see who's in my house today.
Hey.
You may or may not recognize Meghan from some of my more recent videos where I've been interviewing realtors, asking them things like what are their favorite condo buildings in Toronto and what is the worst condo building in Toronto. Meghan had a very popular answer.
I had the correct answer to that.
Which was?
ICE condos.
Right.
The worst building in the city.
So,
well, two buildings, I should say. Sorry.
Right. And so surprisingly, no one else in the interview had mentioned ICE. But a lot of people mentioned City Place, which
I also happen to really disagree with.
And City Place is also not a building. It's a neighborhood.
It's not a building. It's a collection of buildings.
So we thought maybe we would take some time to clear the air and give City Place some flowers because it's really not as bad as a lot of people make it out to be.
Not at all. I couldn't agree more.
There are some not so, like any neighborhood, there are good and bad buildings, good and bad pockets, but there's a lot to like about City Place, Canoe Landing Park.
Yep. R.I.P. to the canoe, though.
What happened to the canoe?
It burned down.
Someone burned the canoe?
Someone burned the canoe.
Stop burning stuff.
I know. It was terrible.
Someone set the little bathroom hut at Greenwood Park on fire.
Why?
I don't know.
People are weird.
No
Don't do that.
arson.
No arson,
Stop
guys.
arson. Anyway, so why don't you tell me a little bit about why City Place is not so bad?
Okay, so I also have some thoughts on that video. It's a controversial video. I think a lot of people said City Place because they're coming from the perspective of their own viewpoints.
Yep.
City Place, as a realtor, it is difficult to show down there.
Yes,
There's
parking
not
is not optimal.
There's not a lot of parking. The lockbox situation in some buildings is like not ideal. It's not the best, especially if you're there at rush hour. It's difficult to get in and out
For sure,
of,
yeah.
all of that stuff. But I think as a resident of City Place, I think it's great.
Yeah, and the other thing too is like you have to keep in mind a lot of people that are living in City Place are not people who are driving, and City Place is not necessarily the best place to have to like drive in and out of.
No.
Because it can get really busy. But if you are someone who bikes, walks, takes transit, it's super convenient. There's like 2 or 3 huge grocery stores within a few minute walk of any building.
Yep.
You're right at the bridge, so you can cross the tracks, get up to King West area. And
if you like to go to sporting events,
Yeah.
like you're so close to the Blue Jays, like you're close to concerts, you're close to the lake.
Yes. Who wants
all
to
that
have
good
to
stuff.
Uber to the Scotiabank Arena,
No one.
RIP ACC, for a concert?
Listen, it'll be the ACC and the Sky Dome forever. I just need to say that.
It will.
I will always only call them that.
Yes. And the Hummingbird Center.
And the Hummingbird Center, which I'm even older than that. And I also call it the O'Keefe.
Okay, well.
Anyway, I digress.
Anyways, and because some of the buildings in City Place are older and not everyone feels very strongly about it, prices can be
Really reasonable.
Pretty reasonable.
And there are definitely some buildings, like you said, that are better than others and some have really good floor plans. Some have really good views, especially if you're in a corner unit in some of those buildings. If you're higher up, you're facing the lake. Like there's some really, really good options there. And I feel like if you're a young person, new to Toronto, new to
Very
downtown,
popular for people new to downtown.
Yep, absolutely. And you're in that phase of your life where you want to be downtown, you want to be in the thick of it, you have an active social life, you don't have a car. It's great. I think it's great. I have lots of clients in City Place and they love it.
Also, everyone's like into running now, and so many
Run
nice
clubs.
run clubs, so many nice running trails. And so with that, I think there is another neighborhood in Toronto that has a similar perception. A lot of people hate it and think it is the worst. And I thought maybe you would want to talk about that.
I know what neighborhood you're going to say.
What neighborhood?
Liberty Village.
Liberty Village?
That I also have a strong affection for.
Meghan loves Liberty Village.
Spoiler alert, I am 100% biased because I live there. So
That's okay.
I want to be transparent.
That's fair.
But I think anybody watching this is probably going to agree Liberty Village gets a bad reputation.
It does.
And I have clients come to me all the time that will say they're looking for a condo, they're looking for a lease, and they'll specifically say, but not Liberty Village.
Yeah.
And that does do you find that happens to you?
Sometimes, yeah.
And they'll be like, I'm good with King West, I'm good with Queen West.
Yep.
But I don't want to go, I'm good with Fort York, but I don't want to go to Liberty Village.
I found it a lot more, like during the pandemic and, like 2023. But the last 2 years, I haven't been getting people avoiding it as much. In fact, I've actually had people wanting to buy specifically in Liberty Village.
So I will say, I have also, like, when I've had clients that really want to live like around Liberty Village and they're hesitant for Liberty Village, I've often said, like, why don't we just look in Liberty? Because much like City Place, rent prices are lower, a little bit lower, purchase prices are a little bit lower, and some buildings are amazing. So I do think, we've talked about this, I do think there is a ranking system
Yes.
for the buildings in Liberty Village. But I think I just don't think it should be written off as much as it should.
No. And I think also when I think about Liberty Village, I think there's like Liberty Village East and Liberty Village West.
Yes.
And Liberty Village West is by far superior because there's just more stuff.
Yes. And it's less busy.
Yeah. Main downsides, I think, for Liberty Village are just, again, it's car accessibility because there's only really 2 ways to get in.
I'm going to push back on that.
Okay.
Because I am a driver that lives in Liberty Village. And I will say, save last summer.
When it took you 16 hours to get home?
Yes. Okay. Last summer was bad, but that is on the City of Toronto Planning Department. If you have read that article, that recent report, you will understand why that happened. If you don't know what I'm talking about,
We will link it in the description.
Lonnie will link it. But basically around Liberty Village last year, they ripped out all the tracks on King West so you couldn't get in. They narrowed the Gardiner down to 1 lane so you couldn't get out on the Gardiner. And then there was a period of time where while King Street was closed, so was Strawn Avenue. And you literally couldn't get out of Liberty Village.
Yeah.
But that was an isolated incident.
Yeah. And again, like it's not to say that it's a huge problem. It's just, I think that's
It's a consideration.
That's the perception that some people have, is that there's only really 2 ways to get in and out. And so if you happen to be leaving at peak rush hour, it will be more difficult than cutting through side streets.
Yes. But the reason I definitely would push back on it is because we actually live there because of its proximity to major.
Gardiner.
Yeah.
Yep.
So like, my in-laws live in London, so we're right on the Gardiner to go visit them. I do a lot of work kind of midtown in the East End. Our office is in midtown. I get on the Gardiner like 2 seconds.
Yep.
If I was living a little bit more north in Little Italy, which I love and have lived in, it would be a lot harder for me to get out of that neighborhood over to the east.
But do you think it would be harder if you lived in Liberty Village East?
Yes.
Aha. The divide, the great divide. Okay. So actually I have a funny like side note, asterisk about Liberty Village. I am a little bit of like a workaholic.
No.
What?
I've never heard this before.
Shocker. And I also am like kind of a nerd, and I have a lot of ADHD. I'm up there.
So surprised. I'm hearing all of this for the first time.
I know. I never thought you'd find out.
You've kept such a good secret for
so
long.
I have this thing that I have to do every time I'm on the Gardiner.
Oh yeah. This is good.
Only when I'm driving west on the Gardiner and I drive past Liberty Village, I name every single building in order from the beginning. So there's the buildings on Ordnance, and then we go 49 East Liberty, 51 East Liberty, 55 East Liberty, 59 East Liberty, 65, 75, 85, etc. Every time. And I do it when Brandon, my fiance, is in the car with me, and it's to the point now where he's like, I know you know the buildings, I don't care. And
He's like, stop showing off.
You don't understand. I have to tell you. I have to show you that I know all these buildings. And then on the way back, when I'm coming, because now obviously the Gardiner laneways are closed, instead I'll call Megan and be like, I'm driving past your building.
Yeah, she'll be like, I can see you. And I'm like, okay, well, I can't see you.
So, okay. We've mentioned a couple times that both in City Place and in Liberty Village, there are some buildings that we really like versus some buildings that maybe we wouldn't recommend to client.
All of my love for City Place and Liberty Village does need an asterisk attached to it.
Yeah.
That there are superior buildings in those neighborhoods.
But even if you go to the best neighborhood,
it's always going to be like
there's
that.
always going to be one or two buildings that are not the best ones.
Yeah.
So I thought maybe instead of, you know, going as extreme like we have in some of the other videos where it's, you know, best building, worst building, maybe we can just share a couple of our favorites and least favorites in some areas. So City Place, what would be one recommendation?
I actually want to know what your favorite in City Place is.
I like Harborview Estates. So 10 Navy Wharf, 15 Marina Terrace, that whole little complex. They have, I think it's called the Super Club. It's like a crazy amenity facility. It's separate from the condo. The four buildings share it. It is stunning. The buildings are well managed. I think maybe one allows short-term rentals, but the rest are very strict about no Airbnbs, no short-term rentals. Really functional layouts.
Yeah. That amenity complex
Crazy.
is insane.
Yeah.
I have clients that live there that have moved in to that complex for the amenities. They are phenomenal. Like if you are even interested in looking in that area, look at those buildings because the amenities are, I personally think like top tier in the city.
Absolutely.
It's incredible. Like the gym is phenomenal.
And the maintenance
pool,
fees
the views
are pretty fair. I mean, they're around $1 a square foot, but the buildings are about 20 years old.
Yeah.
And for the amenities that you get, plus they have free visitor parking, which in City Place is key.
Yeah.
Like really great value.
I also think I have a whole theory, which we won't dive into today. I mean, we can, but we won't. But about like the age of condo buildings.
100%.
There's a sweet spot of age of building. And there's like probably 15 years of where they're really bad. And the floor plans are really tiny. The finishings are really bad. The appliances are really bad.
Do you mean all the buildings that have been built in the last 15 years, Megan?
Maybe. I'm just gonna casually say like 2010 onward.
Even like I would say maybe up to 2014, 2015.
Some. Yeah.
Some.
But generally like older than 2010, which a lot of City Place falls into.
Yeah, a lot of like 2000 to 2010. But there is also a window in there where builders used our favorite type of plumbing. Kitech plumbing.
Kitech plumbing.
Which is also something that if you are buying buying a unit in a building that was built within the years that Kitech was used, you absolutely need to check and make sure that it's not in there. Kitech is just a complete disaster. It's this type of plumbing that was used, and then shortly after they realized that essentially the system was bound to fail, and when it fails it will burst or explode, causing disaster
and flood your unit, your neighbor's unit, the
your
unit
building
below you, the whole building. I lived in a building with failed Kitech.
Oh, good.
Many years ago, and I woke up to the water pouring through the pot lights over our sink, and then I opened our front door, and there was a waterfall coming down the emergency exit stairs.
Yep.
And the building got shut. The elevators and everything got shut down for like, I don't know, a year while they were trying to fix it.
Okay.
So anyway,
avoid Kitech plumbing.
Avoid Kitech. But I have sold units that have had Kitech removed.
Yeah, as long as it's removed, it's fine.
And it's totally fine. Totally fine.
Okay, so what about you? Do you have another one?
I actually agree completely with you.
Okay.
That's probably what I would have answered, mainly because of the age, the location within City Place, and the amenities. Big deal.
I would also say I like directly across the street 15 Fort York and 11 Brunel Court. That little complex too is quite comparable.
Yeah, I like 15 Fort York. I have clients there. That's an Airbnb building.
But you wouldn't know.
You wouldn't know. It's really well managed. And it's funny because when my client bought in there, we like talked extensively about it. And he was like, no, it's fine. Because every time we've been there was like no issue. I think like if you're going to live in an Airbnb building, that's one that I would actually recommend.
Yep,
It's
for
really
sure.
well managed, their Airbnb situation.
Okay, so buildings that you would not recommend to someone buying in City Place.
Ooh. Okay, I'm not as good with the addresses in City Place because
Describe how it looks.
The one on the end that's really tall and it's like got green glass on it.
Oh, 170 Fort York?
Yep.
Awful layouts.
Terrible. And like all the finishings feel like if you close a door too hard, they're going to fall off their hinges.
I also am not a huge fan of Parade.
No.
And it's mostly because, listen, a lot of the units have stunning views. They have great amenities. But that complex is an Airbnb complex, and unfortunately riddled with Airbnbs. And I recently sold a condo there. And listen, to each their own. This is not to say it's a bad building. It's just if you don't want a building that has high transiency rate, every time I went to the building, there were at least 5 people in the lobby with suitcases. So it really feels like a hotel. And in that regard, I wouldn't recommend it unless you don't care.
Yeah, or you're buying specifically as
because you want
Airbnb.
Want the option.
Yeah.
And I mean, for people like that, those buildings are great because they're so close to sports arenas and
they're better run Airbnb buildings than the ICEs of the world.
They make you pay for your lockbox because otherwise there would be so many lockboxes. So I had to physically go down there and renew my lockbox rental every month for 3 months because like we had a 60-day closing. Anyways, okay, Liberty Village.
Liberty Village. Okay, so
favorite.
You know what I'm going to say.
Okay, favorite 2.
Okay, so my favorite for sure is the Toy Factory, 43 Hannah.
Shocker.
Shout out to the Toy Factory. It's also one of my favorite lofts in the city, not just exclusive to Liberty Village. It is a great loft conversion. Mm-hmm. It's one of like kind of the OG loft conversions to that 2008 period done around that time in the West End. It's really well maintained. The developer owns a unit in the building, so the maintenance fees are incredibly low and have stayed low like forever.
There's also a ton of units to share, like to spread costs across.
There's a lot of units, but the building feels boutique-y because it's only 7 stories. Anyway, great building. I'm gonna rank my second favorite. I really like 5 Hannah.
Okay.
I actually have a pool that I'm going to put in second place. Like, let's call it, I don't even want to say second place. Let's say like there's
tier 1, tier 2.
Yeah. Tier 1, tier 2. Tier 2 for me is like 5 Hannah, 100 Western Battery Road, 50 Lynn Williams, 125 Western Battery, which is basically the same as
80, 100,
80,
125.
Yeah. 80, 100, 125, 50 Lynn Williams, because they share amenities complexes. Like they're connected. Not all units in 50 Lynn Williams are great.
No.
There's some really bizarre floor plans. Mm-hmm. But if you get a good floor plan, they have some really good views too.
Yep.
The building's really well run, really well maintained.
I also quite like 55 and 59 East Liberty.
Yes. I also like, I think 135 East Liberty.
The older one?
Yeah.
I've never been in a unit that I liked in that building. Every layout I've seen has been wonky.
But they've got the good views facing east because it's over the park.
Yeah, I suppose.
Can you tell I like views? Ironically, I don't live in a unit with a view.
You have a view of a building.
I look at another building. But that's
okay.
here and
there. And then
but yes, which ones did you say before that?
55 and 59.
Yeah, 59 I really like.
Yep.
I really like 59. There's some really fun floor plans in that.
Yep.
Also really well run building.
Tier 3 would probably be like 65, 75, 85 East Liberty because they're not bad.
They're not bad.
But because it's 3 buildings side by side, most of the units just stare at other units.
Yeah.
Layouts for the most part are okay.
The layouts are actually great. The thing for me that saves that complex is it has what I consider to be the top tier 1-bedroom, 1+ den condo layout.
Absolutely.
Which is the kitchen with a peninsula and a breakfast bar, dining, living,
bedroom with a window,
and then like a den behind it if there is a den.
Yep.
And that to me is like the top tier floor plan. And there's a ton of that floor plan in that complex.
For sure. Also, like if you have south views, so much better. But a lot of the east-west views are not great. And
the north view is bad too in a lot of them.
Yes. And one thing that happened many years ago that a lot of people have forgotten about is, do you remember?
Have I forgotten about it? Oh, no, I haven't. The meth lab. Yeah.
So
live, love, meth. Don't do meth.
It was like a meth lab explosion.
There was a meth lab explosion.
At 85 East Liberty. Mm-hmm. It has to be like, at least 5+ years ago.
No, more than that. It was before
10?
COVID. It was before COVID.
10 years ago?
Yeah, because
between 5 and 10 years.
Yeah, because I've lived in Liberty since COVID, and it was before I moved in there.
It was, yeah, okay.
We can fact check it, but it was a while ago. The building's reputation has recovered.
Yeah, it's fine. It's just like a funny,
fun fact,
past fact about it.
But what me personally, reasons that I don't love, like, and I would rank those buildings as tier 3 as well, is the ceilings are quite low.
The ceilings are quite low. A lot of popcorn.
There's a lot of popcorn, and it's just a bit of a mega complex.
It is. That's very true.
Which some people, that doesn't bother.
Yep. It's not a bad building.
No, it's not a bad building. It's just like, when I say mega complex, like for me, what would annoy me as a consumer, like somebody who is living there, is the underground parking is all connected through all 3 buildings.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like the most massive underground parking situation you have ever seen in your life. It's crazy down there. It's a maze. And it's just a little bit confusing to get around.
It is a little bit confusing. Yeah, it's a big complex.
It's a big complex. But that really doesn't bother some people. And I would never dissuade somebody to live there based on that, because that's really personal preference. It's really personal preference.
Okay. Buildings in Liberty that we are not fans of.
Yeah.
19 Western Battery.
19 WB.
I have never been to 19 Western Battery where every single space that I've walked in, elevator, stairwell, hallways, have not smelled of weed.
Yeah, everyone's high in that building. Are you guys okay in that building?
Hi. Do you think Snoop Dogg lives in that building?
Yeah.
He must.
I think when he comes to Toronto, he stays
He
at
must
19.
be at 19 Western Battery.
Yeah. The finishings in that building are also
not great.
questionable at best.
Yep.
I've never been in a unit where the laminate flooring is 100% attached to the subfloor.
Yeah, every single time I've shown a unit to a client in that building, they have said, no thanks.
No, but back to views. Phenomenal views.
Sell your soul for the view.
On the west side of the building, because they're completely unobstructed, because they're facing the park and the towns, like the townhouses that are there. So, and sometimes rent prices are relatively low there. Sometimes the purchase prices are a little bit lower. Yep. They do have a cool amenities area.
Yeah, they've got like a spa.
And they've got a running track that goes around the whole building.
I've seen the running track.
4th floor, whatever floor it's on.
That would make me nervous.
Yeah, it's not for everyone. But again,
I wouldn't run on the ground either, though.
No.
I don't like.
I think it needs I think it needs a running track though, because you can't run in Liberty Village. The sidewalks are too congested.
That's fair. But you can just walk down to the lake.
Yes, you can
and
walk
then
down
run. Okay.
Ordinance. Do you want to talk about ordinance?
Ordinance doesn't count as Liberty Village. Strawn is the boundary of Liberty Village. Ordinance is its own neighborhood. I don't know what it's called.
No,
but it's not
Ordinance.
Liberty Village.
It's just called Ordinance.
It's called the Playground because that's the name of the building, I think.
Yeah, I think it is.
I'm pretty sure it's Playground.
And then there's the rental building on the corner that.
And then there's your King West Bros favorite gym.
Altea. If you want to meet King West Bros,
go there.
They're
all there.
They're all there. There's a Top Golf there, also very King West bro activity.
Okay. Good for golfers.
Good for golfers.
Not
There's
for
also
me.
500 Starbucks at that intersection. There's a Starbucks in that rental building. There's a Starbucks in the other rental building on the corner, Solidarity or whatever it's called. I don't know. I've never been in it because it's rentals only. And there's 3 more Starbucks in Liberty Village other than those 2.
That's crazy.
It's too many Starbucks. But yes, Ordinance is not Liberty Village. I will also say that when you go up Strawn, that is also not Liberty Village.
No.
Just want to put that out there. There's listings that have come up at One Shaw.
No, that's not Liberty Village.
And people are like, great location in Liberty Village. That's not Liberty Village.
That's called West King West.
It's West King West, 1030 King West, 1000 King West, One Shaw.
If you call that Liberty Village, you should be in jail.
Straight to jail.
Look at the map.
It's not Liberty Village.
Okay, I'm also not a huge fan of 49 East Liberty, but I don't mind 51 East Liberty because 51 was built first and then they did 49 after and the layouts are atrocious.
I don't like either.
Okay, well,
sorry.
That's fine. Okay, moving on. We did City Place. We did Liberty Village, Fort York.
Fort York. So I think there's some great buildings in Fort York. Yeah. I also think it's really great if you're a commuter because the TTC, the streetcar comes right past Fort York. Mm-hmm. And you have easy access up Bathurst there.
Yep.
So it's a nice little pocket. There's a Loblaws right there.
There is a Loblaws.
It's very good. I would say, well, we talked about 15 Fort York, didn't we?
That's not Fort York. That's City Place, though.
That's City Place. What am I talking about?
Come on.
Get it together. It's like I do this for a job.
Fort York is like between Bathurst and Strawn.
And Strawn. It's like the south of Ordnance in that little pocket that comes up to Bathurst.
South, but east.
East. So, yes. South, east, and then up over to Bathurst, and then like
essentially follows the footprint of the Fort York.
The Fort York, yeah. And the Benway.
Yes. I like 38 Iannuzi.
Iannuzi. I actually don't really know. Is that how you say it?
I don't know. Someone
said sounds fun, right?
Yeah, it can't be Iannuzzi.
Iannuzzi.
Italians, please correct us.
Italians chime in.
But low condo fees, for the most part, good floor plans, well maintained.
Yep.
I like it. I don't hate Neptune.
Okay, I actually really like Neptune.
Yep.
Because it's in that sweet spot of age.
Yes. The only reason why Neptune gets negative points from me is because it's also an Airbnb building.
That's true. That's fair.
But if you want to go and meet dogs and you just stand in the lobby of Neptune for 5 minutes, you'll meet 15 dogs.
A million dogs. My only beef with Fort York in general, zero parking. Zero.
Yeah.
You think parking in City Place is bad?
Oh, don't even try to park in Fort York.
You can't. You cannot park there.
There's like one spot where you can park.
You have to park in the condo, like for realtors. This is like not buyers specific.
Yeah. Or if you're a buyer and you have guests coming.
Yeah. You have to park in the building that you live in, visitor parking.
Yeah.
It is the only place.
There's no street. There's street parking in like one place.
Yeah. It's my only beef with Fort York.
What don't I love in Fort York? 20 Brewers Muse. Brewers.
That's another one I don't know how to say. Why is everything in Fort York a street name that I don't know how to say? Briars?
Brewers.
It's spelled like Brewers.
Yeah. And then 38 Grand Magazine always has elevator problems.
I hate 38 Grand Magazine.
Okay. So
I feel strongly about that apparently.
What's funny about 38 Grand Magazine is that it was built in the same era as like some other buildings that look very modern, but if you go into Grand Magazine, you'd think it was built in the 90s.
It feels so old.
Yeah.
And the finishings feel really old. Like a lot of the units have like that really orange oak wood flooring or kitchen cabinets, which is really bizarre, which makes it feel like the 90s.
Yeah.
Some of the floor plans are okay if you like unique. Like they're bigger.
Yeah.
But they're just a bit untraditional, let's call it.
Yep, that's fair.
But I don't really like that building.
If you like what you're watching so far, don't forget to hit subscribe and check out the rest of my socials. One of Megan and I's favorite pastimes is whining to each other about ridiculous things that we encounter agents do in our day-to-day.
And they're often things we can't change, but we just like to complain about.
Absolutely, because if you can't trauma bond, what are you doing with your life? So we wanted to talk about some realtor do's and don'ts, perhaps some things that we see often that we don't like or that we don't think is great and how it could be done differently or better.
Yeah.
The first one is the notorious iPhone photos for listing photos, but when like the agent is like in the mirror and their phone is here,
and they're like dodging out of frame,
but they're in the photo still.
Yeah. Well, your phone is in the photo for sure.
There's also one I saw once where I think it was a tenanted property, and I guess the tenants were watching TV when the photographer was there.
Oh my God.
And they just so happened to get a photo of when in the scene it was just like a guy's butt. Naked butt. Amazing. So anything like, don't take photos on your phone.
Listen, even if because you said tenanted, even if the unit is tenanted and doesn't look great,
professional photos will make it look way better. But it's the ones that are also, they're vacant, and then they take like photos, and then the like 0.5x from like up here, so it looks like a drone took it.
Yeah, like in the corner, like it was taken by a security camera.
Another one, the faucet. Unless you're selling a cottage where people might be concerned about like water pressure, I don't want to see the faucet running. I don't want you to zoom in on the staging decor and the knickknacks unless they come with the property.
So speaking of faucet, I remember, I'll never forget this. There was a listing of a condo that had one photo of the kitchen, normal, like it was vacant, normal kitchen photo. And then the next photo was every single cupboard door and drawer open.
I've seen those.
Why?
So you can see how they look inside.
I know that they open.
My favorite is when they take a photo of the inside of like the stove. It's a stove.
It's a stove.
We know what it looks like on the
inside. I get it.
I
don't. So yeah, I can't. Okay, but can I talk about really quickly realtor do's with photos other than professional photos? If there's a dog in the photo,
there should be a dog in the photo. If
the dog in the photo.
If the property, if like the owners have a dog, I feel like the dog should be in the photos.
Love a dog in a photo. It's like an Easter egg.
Oh yeah.
Of going through photos on Realm and on MLS and finding a dog. I will immediately send it to Anya. Or even a cat. Or a cat. Cats are fine too.
Any animals. We want to see an animal in the listing photos.
I love it so much. It makes me so happy.
Hello.
Hi there. How are you?
Good. How are you? I honestly, there's not a whole lot that I can do. You should definitely talk to your real estate lawyer. Yeah. No worries. Good luck. Oh, you call me for advice and then
that's nice.
Hang up.
But to the general public out there who find Anya on TikTok, she's not a real estate lawyer.
I'm not a lawyer.
She's not a lawyer. She's an agent, and she gets a lot of phone calls asking for legal advice. Don't do that.
I get calls asking for all sorts of advice, and very often from people who have their own agents.
Yes,
and
call your own agent.
And sometimes it's because their agent can't help them, but like what the general public doesn't understand is that my hands are tied. If you have an agent, I cannot legally provide you any advice.
You are contractually obligated to your agent both ways. It's a mutual contract.
And if your agent screws you, I am sorry. I really feel for you, and I wish I could help you, but I cannot. Can't. You have to call a lawyer.
Yeah.
Or call Rico.
Yeah.
But I'm sorry. Like I feel like it's something about my aura or my personality that just everyone, it's true.
It's true. Your aura attracts accessibility.
My aura attracts people who just want to ask me for advice, even when I don't know. And I think it's because I'm like very nifty and I can often figure out the answer.
Yes.
Okay. Anyways.
Most of the time you do know the answer when people ask you, but you just can't tell them because you can't.
But like also agents, like everyone.
Yeah. Real estate lawyers have called her to ask her for things.
Everyone calls me to ask me for things. It's so funny. Okay. We'll go back to realtor do's and don'ts. And actually, I think that could be one to note. Don't work outside of your service area.
Don't work outside of your service area or an area that you're not comfortable with.
Yeah. Like I am not going to sell you a house in Hamilton because I don't know Hamilton. I don't track the market there. I don't know the neighborhoods. And I don't want to sell you a house in a neighborhood that happens to have termites. And I didn't know that because that's not working in your best interest. And the same way as, we get tons of agents, I've dealt with on the listing side, buyers who have their agents from out of town. And one time I actually, they purchased the house and the agent called me sobbing the next day. Sobbing.
The listing agent or the buyer's agent?
I was the listing agent.
Oh,
the
you were the
buyer's
listing.
agent
The buyer's agent.
Sobbing, saying, I think we overpaid. These are my family friends. I'm worried the property's not going to appraise. Would you go to your seller and see if we could do a reduced price? I said,
not how that works.
You gave us a bully offer on this house. No, I'm sorry. Like, you should have done your due diligence. If you feel like you overpaid, you should have figured that out sooner. She's like, I just don't know how I'm going to go and tell them or what's going to happen if the property doesn't appraise. And I said, well, has the appraiser gone in yet? No. I was like, so why are we having this conversation right now?
This happened at that loft building, a specific loft building that will maybe leave out the building that it was.
We should. Yep.
I had clients that put in an offer on a unit there. We got a really good price on it.
Mm-hmm.
It had some issues
Mm-hmm.
that were not properly disclosed, but not necessarily known. They weren't known when we purchased the property.
They should have been known.
They should have been known, but they weren't by the listing side.
Mm-hmm.
And we found them out during our due diligence. And ultimately, a lot of stuff happened. It doesn't really matter. But we ultimately decided to walk away from the purchase because we couldn't rectify the issues in time. So no big deal. Whatever. We walked away. And then the unit ended up selling to an out-of-town agent
for substantially more than you got it for.
Substantially more than what we paid. And given the issues that this particular unit and building had, they way overpaid.
I think that we can say, we don't have to like get into the details, but
Yeah.
essentially the unit was advertised as having a parking spot.
Yes.
But
An owned parking spot.
An owned parking spot.
Or sorry. Let me back up.
Exclusive use.
It was advertised as having an exclusive use parking spot.
Which, to those who don't know, means that when you purchase a condo, the parking spot doesn't have its own like deed or PIN number, but rather you are guaranteed a parking spot per the condo rules.
So essentially, like, the building owns the space, and
it will allocate it to you.
Yeah, and you are allowed to exclusively use that space. Lockers, you see that lockers sometimes too, exclusive use lockers. It's very, very different from an owned parking space and an owned locker from a value perspective.
Yep.
Because if you own your parking space, you can sell it. Fun fact. So if you've got a condo and you've got one parking space and you don't need it and you don't want it,
you can sell it.
You can sell it to somebody else in the building for like $30,000, $50,000, $80,000, depending on the building. So because it has that tangible value, it increases the value of the unit. Whereas an exclusive use spot does not increase the value
by the same amount. And
it still increases value, but
yep,
not nearly the same as if it's owned.
And then with this specific case, Meghan found out that the exclusive use parking spot agreement was no longer in place, which means that
it had expired.
There is no parking spot, but the listing after your deal fell through continued to advertise one exclusive use parking spot.
Yes.
And we knew someone that had inquired about it.
Yes, we knew.
And the agent continued to advertise it as an exclusive use parking spot and did not mention the issue.
Yes. And an out-of-town agent from Hamilton represented the buyer. And I don't know. I mean, like, I can't speak to how that was communicated between the listing agent and the buyer, whether or not they knew or not. They may have full well known that there was issues with the exclusive use agreement that were not rectified. But they purchased it over asking, not in competition, with no multiple offers. Over asking. So it was very interesting. But we covered a lot of ground with that example, but to really like bring it back home, I'm not convinced that out-of-town agent
knew what was going on,
had any idea what was going on.
Yeah.
That building also had a horrible reserve fund. Horrible.
I'm not surprised. Yeah, so there you go. Realtor, do work in your market area. Don't work outside of it or with a property type you're not familiar with. Like,
this was a very unique property type.
Yeah,
So this is not a standard building.
I'm a residential realtor.
Yeah.
I am not going to do a commercial lease because I don't know how. I'm not qualified to do it.
Yeah.
I will not be representing your best interests if I do so.
Yeah. I have done commercial. I don't love it. It's not my favorite, but I agree with you. Like, if you were going to get into a commercial situation, be highly educated on
you have to know what you're doing.
Yeah.
Okay. And that also combined with that is disclose what needs to be disclosed.
Disclose. When in doubt, disclose.
That was good timing. Yeah, because the last thing you want is And this happened to me. My clients wanted to offer on this house. We found out that the building, there was a bunch of structural work done with no permits. This has also happened to you. And the agent didn't disclose it to me initially. I found out myself, but that's, again, part of the due diligence you need to be doing when you're working with buyers is you have to verify this. And for us, we ended up not offering because of it.
We backed away. We did offer.
Yeah.
It was almost identical, actually, situations, but like handled differently because of the way our clients approached it. But the house that my clients offered on had a wall dividing the kitchen and the living room that had been taken down to open the kitchen up. No support pillars were visible. And we offered conditional on home inspection and permits. We put it in the offer that permits had been obtained and closed by the city. And during the course of that, found out that permits had not been obtained. And the reason for permits not being obtained were legitimate in our case. That the guy who owned the house had done the work himself. He was a contractor. He wasn't planning on selling. And I think his life changed and ended up needing to sell the property. But there was no way for us to prove that it was done properly. There was also a buried pool in the backyard. Fun fact. You can find that out on the city's website.
And another fun fact is that both of these properties just so happened to be in Mississauga.
The pool thing is common, I feel like, in Mississauga because the lots are big and they're mid-century and pools were very popular then.
But why just get rid of
Isn't
it
it
properly?
so weird to fill in a pool? I think that I didn't even know that was
I'd
a
rather
thing.
just keep the pool.
Just keep the pool. But if the pool's like in disrepair, like if it's a mid-century pool that's a concrete pool and it's cracked, and it's a lot of money to take it out.
Yeah, that's fair.
So a lot of people will
Pools
just
are
fill it
very
in.
expensive.
They're very expensive. But yeah, so in my case, your case, you guys didn't offer because you found out in
Ahead of
advance,
time.
right? Yeah. We offered, found out due diligence, and had to sign a mutual release, and my clients got their deposit back. They were very understanding on their side.
Yeah.
It all worked out. They bought a different house, but yeah, get permits. You can also get retroactive permits.
Yeah, which
Fun
is again, and this happened to a deal fell through in my mom's neighborhood where the buyers discovered before closing during the title search period that there were never permits pulled for a massive gut job. New bathrooms were added, walls were taken down, buyers backed out. They let it sit off the market for a little bit, relisted it. I thought during that time they were getting permits. Nope. Relisted it. The new owners have since had to redo all of the structural work on the main floor, rebuild the stairs. It has cost them so much money. So as a realtor, when you're on the listing side, it's so important that you get all of this information.
Yeah.
And then you disclose what needs to be disclosed.
Yeah.
It's so imperative because you could put your clients in a bad position if you're on the listing side and you don't know this and it's discovered later.
And I also will think, I will also say in my experience, those disclosures don't necessarily detract buyers.
No, in fact, buyers feel more comfortable if a problem is told to them ahead of time.
100%.
As opposed to my clients who were like, this is so sketchy. Why didn't they tell us before?
I have had so many buyers say that they feel like in situations like this, that they feel like the seller is trying to hide things from them.
Yep.
And they now don't trust them.
And they wonder what else is being hidden.
And they wonder what else is being hidden. And it prevents them from offering they'd maybe offer a higher price if they felt like they trusted the buyer the seller. It's really not, it's not cute. It's not a good look.
No.
Disclose everything.
And
shout out to those agents that do disclose everything.
We appreciate
that.
you.
Cannot be understated. I recently had this happen on a house that had a really messy home inspection. And when I called the agent for the home inspection, he called it out to me. He was like, I'm sending you the home inspection, but I just want to let you know there's a lot of call outs here. The sellers are aware. They're being realistic about price. They've remedied some of the stuff. They're willing to work with it. He was very, very transparent and open and honest about it. And my buyer was like, oh, okay, great.
Well, and I have a listing now in Etobicoke, and there's some water that comes into the basement when there's heavy rain because the windows are flush with the driveway. There should be a couple inch clearance so that water doesn't seep through the window frame, but it does. And I have it very clearly in the listing what happens when it rains and that there's some water penetration in the basement.
I just feel like in Toronto houses specifically, the houses are old. There's stuff wrong with them.
Yep, just Be straight up.
Be honest about it. It's not usually a big deal.
And that ties into communication.
Put your cell phone number
On the
your
listing.
Please, for the love of God.
And if you're afraid of people calling you, like random people, that's fine. You don't have to put your phone number on realtor.ca or publicly.
No.
But put it on the listing so that other agents
listing.
can call you. Because the number of times that I have sent an email asking a question, called the office to have the agent page.
I've Googled their phone numbers.
Everything.
Like I've had to find people on like Instagram to see if they've had their...
Do you recall the one person when you called them and they asked you how you got their number?
Yes. That was a crazy deal, but that's a completely different story. I could not find an agent's phone number anywhere. It was not on the listing. It was not on her brokerage's website. I called the brokerage. I had them page her. She did not return the page. We were in like, it was a hot market. I needed to get a hold of her. And I had a colleague that I was like, have you worked with this agent before? And they were like, yes, I've done deals with her. And I was like, do you have her cell phone number? And he was like, yes, I can give you her number. And I was like, oh my God, this is amazing. Thank you so much. Got the number from the colleague, called her, and she said, how did you get my number? You're a realtor.
Lady, we're working on a deal here. We're trying to get a deal done.
Do you want this house to sell? Do
Yeah.
you want your listing to sell? Like, I get it. You don't want to be inundated, whatever, that's fine. But like, you need to be accessible if you have a listing, you need to be accessible by other agents.
Yeah. And if you really, for some reason, don't want your number there, like,
then answer your pages.
Answer your emails.
Yeah.
Be
Yeah.
quick.
I'm fine. And like, or I love a voicemail when the number is listed and I call and they're like, hey, you can get a hold of me faster by text.
Yep.
And then I do text and they respond. Mm-hmm. I love that. That's fine too.
Another realtor don't that goes in with communication is don't call me at 9:30 p.m. on a Friday night to ask me a question that could have been an email.
Okay, so realtors are notorious for not having boundaries.
No boundaries.
We have no boundaries. I will work at 11 o'clock at night. I'll send an email at 7 o'clock. I've stopped myself from doing this, but I used to send emails at 7 o'clock in the morning. Because we have no boundaries and no days off, if we are not in an active offer negotiation, I don't want to talk to you at 11 o'clock at night.
No. My favorite was when I was in Costa Rica in January and I had an out of office alert on my email that specifically said in bold letters, do not call me. If this is urgent, underlined, italicized, you can send me a message on WhatsApp. And this agent tried to call me. He emailed me. Then he sent me like 6 messages on WhatsApp because he wanted the lawyer information for my buyer on a deal that was closing in 2 months. That's not urgent.
It's not urgent.
Boundaries, people.
And like set them for yourself.
Yep, absolutely.
Set them for yourself.
Absolutely. And
The
I
best
won't
thing I ever
won't
did.
answer after 9 or rather after 8 unless it's an active negotiation or something I know is urgent.
I also won't answer before 9 a.m.
Oh yeah, don't do that. Don't call me before 9. I'm not a morning person.
Unless, again, if it's not an active offer or like something urgent, like a deposit is coming in.
Yeah, for sure. If it's something that's actually time sensitive.
Yeah, like we're in a conditional period on an offer and like the status is getting reviewed, the home inspection is like getting reviewed, all bets are off if we're in an active offer, active negotiation.
You remember
situation.
the time that an agent tried to send me a quote unquote bully offer at 11 p.m.
the day before offers?
And I was like, my client is legitimately asleep. So
Don't do that.
Don't do that.
If you're going to bully
At an appropriate
time. Or wait. Just wait till the next day when it's offer day. I don't get that. I don't get these strategies. I don't understand that.
Should we talk about pricing strategies?
Speaking of strategies.
Pricing strategies, especially in this market, are a disaster.
I actually had a long call with one of my clients last night who's active buyer in what would normally be a very competitive market and is not all that competitive right now because we're in a buyer's market Shout out buyers. Now is your time. But he was very, very rightfully confused about a property that he's interested in because it has a very bizarre pricing strategy.
Can you tell us about it?
Yeah. This home was, I don't want to give away the house, but I'll tell you exactly what happened. So, okay. So this home was listed originally back in February for, let's call it 1.8 million. Okay. Didn't sell.
This is an arbitrary number. Don't try to look it up.
This is an arbitrary number, and I'm going to tell you the neighborhood it's in, and it's not the neighborhood it's actually in. It's in Corso Italia. Okay.
Carry on.
Which is an amazing neighborhood. I got a lot of heat on one of your videos when I said Oakwood. Shout out to everybody.
That's because Corso Italia will never be the same without La Paloma.
I know, but I'm just saying, to all the people on TikTok, big up to all those people who knew that I was talking about the St. Clair West part of Oakwood.
Not Eglinton.
Not Eglinton. Not that part of Oakwood. Anyway, I digress. It's in Corso Italia. It's listed at 1.8 million back in February. It does not sell. Listing gets terminated. They bring it back at 1,599. Okay, 1.599. I thought, if they're expecting 1.8 and they're at 1,599, they probably tried an offer date strategy.
Yes. And to those who don't know, an offer date is essentially when you list a property for way less than you want.
Way less than market value.
You will set a specific date where you will review offers. So say I list this Tuesday, I'm going to review offers next Tuesday. And that day we will get all of the offers come in. We will likely sell for quite a bit over asking, depending on whether or not you priced it correctly.
That's a whole other discussion. And I think traditionally offer dates were really about creating competition and driving up the price for the seller, so the seller could get the most money for their property, because it's herd mentality. Everybody wants what somebody else wants. So, buyers would often see 3 or 4 offers come in and they'd be like, oh my God, I have to offer 2 because this property is obviously desirable. Lots of people want it.
Yeah. And then it's easier to get caught up in emotion or the heat of the moment when you are offering.
Yes.
And nowadays we're not necessarily seeing it push properties to sell for way above what the sellers would have expected. Rather, it's just helping them achieve it in less time.
Yeah, just to sell at all.
Within a week,
which is great. So so this property listed at 1,599. I thought, okay, well, they've got an offer date strategy. I look at the listing. There is no offer date. It was offers anytime. So now I'm confused. 1.8 to 1,599. What's going on? Then they terminate that listing and they come back at 1,675. $75,000 more.
After they didn't sell
at a lower price. They've now raised the price.
Oh, what a puzzler.
What a puzzler indeed. And my client was like, can you explain this to me? To which I said, no, I don't know.
Because I don't know. I don't get it either.
I don't get it. I'm as confused as you are. And I called the agent, who's lovely. And he said to me, well, 1,599 is kind of the benchmark for the neighborhood. So we just tried that.
What does that even mean?
I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know. So all that's to say is, keep in mind, all of this history is viewable on House Sigma, right? So like my client can see all of these wacky changes and he's looking at it and he's like, I don't get it. What is this house worth?
Yeah. Tell me the number.
How much should I be paying for this house?
Yeah.
And like we've run the comps and like the price is at the lower end of what they want, but that's neither here nor there. The point is it's very confusing. Yeah. And like when we who do this for a living don't understand what you're doing, think about what the consumer is going to think. And that often will dissuade buyers from coming, and viewing a property. And I dealt with this not long ago. There's this house that's been on and off the market for, I want to say like upwards of 2 years. Oh my God.
Yeah. And I had clients that were interested in it. And so they were at, say like $1,999,000. And then they relist at $850,000 offers anytime, 24-hour irrevocable.
Right, which tells me
that that's what you want. And mind you, they've
yeah.
been on the market for or maybe it was 900. It was like a drop that made enough sense to be just a price change.
right, because they're like, okay, it's not working at this price.
It's not
we're gonna
working at
lower.
$1 million, so maybe it's worth 900.
Right.
And so my clients were like, are you sure? Like, is this something that, will sell within our price range? Because they were so used to seeing offer dates. And I was like,
Right.
well, see, it says there's no offer date. So I'm just going to call the agent and check. I just had a bad feeling.
Was it the 24-hour irrevocable that threw you off? Or that gave you a bad feeling?
No, it was the weird history. And so I called the agent and I was like, hey, I have a client who's interested in this property. I see you're listed at $850. I just wanted to call and see if you think that that's,
Will your clients
is that
accept this
a
price?
price that your clients would take? He was like, huh, no. And I said, whatever do you mean, sir? And he was like, well, my clients want $950. And I said, okay, but you're listed at $850 with no offer date. And he was like, yeah, but they want $950. And I was like, but how is anyone supposed to know that? And he was like, I don't know. That's what they want. And I said, okay, well, I don't know what to tell you. And I actually, at this point, I snapped a little bit and I started like telling him about how stupid it was, very respectfully and politely. I was just like, I'm saying this now, but when we were talking, it was more like, okay, but I just don't understand how anyone is going to look at this and offer you
The price that you want.
$100,000 more when there is no competition, no offer date, no incentive to offer more. I don't understand.
Don't get it.
Yeah, listen, there should be two options. Option one is you list it in and around / above what you want. Option
Yes.
two, you list it way below, you hold an offer date. None of this, like, I'm just going to list, you may as well list it for $1. Like,
Which also don't do that.
don't do that.
Don't do that.
But you may as well.
But you may as well.
Because why list something for a price that you are not willing to accept? All it does is confuse literally everyone, and it is not going to make your house sell any faster or your condo.
No, it's going to stigmatize your property. That's the other thing is like back in the day when we didn't have House Sigma and that all of these pricing changes were not public, maybe the agent could kind of like explain away
Yeah, and
some
be like,
of this
this
stuff.
is what's happened. But now buyers look at it and they're like, I mean, everyone's all over Reddit. They're like, what's happening with this house?
Yeah.
Why is this price all over the place?
And it stigmatizes property that doesn't need to be stigmatized. There's nothing
Absolutely.
wrong with the home. Like it's going to sell.
sometimes
It's a
there
great.
is.
Well, sometimes there is. Sometimes there is. But in like the example that I use, there's nothing wrong with this house.
No,
it's a great house.
It's just a silly pricing strategy.
It's a silly pricing strategy that nobody understands. And now I don't know, like, because what we think it's worth, is that going to be what the seller is willing to accept? Like, whatever. I mean, it just, we're in a market, I think, to add a layer to this, we're in a market that nobody really understands because we haven't seen it in Toronto in, I don't know, 20 years, 30 years, 20 years, long time, long before you and I were agents.
Yep.
And there's the vast majority of practicing agents right now have not
Experience this kind of market.
This market. The vast majority of buyers and sellers have not experienced this market, and everybody is trying to figure it out. But I think in some cases they're overcomplicating it.
For sure. And another thing that kind of ties in with that, as our final realtor do and don't, is when you list a house specifically with an offer date and you do not have a pre-list home inspection, yet expect all the offers to be firm. And same thing goes with the status certificate. If you are going to list your condo and you don't have the status available and you have an offer date, and I actually had an agent once because we put the condition in for a status and they were like, no, it has to be firm. And I was like,
no.
They were like, other offers are firm. And I was like, other offers are idiots.
Yes.
And
I won that way once on an offer an offer date. We had it was exactly that. We had like no they had no they didn't have the status certificate. They had an offer date. Multiple offers came in. We offered with a condition. The agent literally said that to me. Other offers are firm. And I said, well, then take a firm offer. We're not taking our condition out.
Yeah, for sure. And same thing with the home inspection. I've had clients go in and do their own inspection before the offer date, and you're spending inspections nowadays are upwards of $1,000.
Yeah, they're expensive.
And you're spending that much money on an inspection for a house that is not even yours. Like, just suck it up. do the pre-list inspection. It's better for you as the listing agent to know what the problems are, because then
Sometimes you can fix them.
sometimes you can fix them.
And if you really don't want to do a pre-list inspection and you don't want to order the status certificate, then be prepared for conditional offers and be open about that.
Yep.
Because that's also fine too.
Also fine, but you have to also then prepare your seller.
But you have to prepare your seller that you're going to get conditional offers.
All right. Okay. Well, I feel like we've yapped for long enough.
We've ranted and yapped. We've had a lot of
So-
strong opinions.
Thank you for coming back to my house.
Thanks for having me at your house with your dogs, who didn't make an appearance in this video.
Theo's put himself to bed.
Theo put himself to bed. He
And
had,
New tends to not be very attention seeking.
she's currently sleeping.
She's passed out. I gave them peanut butter. Okay.
Thanks.